Welcome to Series 3, Episode 7 of the In Her Financial Shoes podcast. Welcome to the In Her Financial Shoes podcast with me, Catherine Morgan, founder of the Money Panel, helping you learn the small behavioural and practical steps to take towards being financially resilient. Listen in each week where we talk about that taboo subject of money. Listen to real life stories, step into our guest shoes and be left feeling 100% confident and in control. Oh, and we hate financial jargon, so don't expect any here. Small steps, big wins, let's go. Hi everybody, it's Catherine here and welcome to the In Her Financial Shoes podcast. So in today's episode, I really wanted to tackle an area that I keep seeing coming up again and again as I'm working in the Money Circle membership and also with one-to-one clients. And this is the subject of profits and how to set up your business accounts when you're running your own business. So why do you need to put profits first? It sounds obvious, right? Now, many of us don't put our profits first. We may think that we do, but we actually don't. And sometimes that can be because of mindset. That could be perhaps that you don't feel worthy of charging X amount for your services, for example. And that can be made up of a lot of behavioural biases, many of which we've already uncovered and discussed on this podcast. Sometimes we can even get in our own way of success because of the lack of confidence or imposter syndrome. But more often than not, it's actually because we follow the traditional accounting model, which is sales minus expenses equals profit. It makes sense, right? It's completely logical. We take our sales, we minus the costs that it takes to run our businesses, and whatever's left is ours to take as profit, as income. But the trouble is that we're often driven by emotions and habits. And so this model puts us into the habit of putting sales first and profits last. And often more sales can mean more expenses. So if we focus on growing too quickly and attracting more clients or selling more products, for example, then increasing our sales means increasing our expenses. And what I've seen from coaching a few people recently is actually if we don't have our basic financial foundation set, if we don't have an emergency fund and then something crops up that rocks that boat, then it means that we can put ourselves into quite a stressful financial situation. So in this podcast, I want to tell you why I love the profit first model and why I think it's particularly important for you to understand this model when you're starting out in business. Now, many of you will know that I am a huge lover of Starling Bank. I wrote a blog about my experience of switching to them in January of 2018. And I actually moved to them because I was about to fly out to Australia to see my twin brother. And I wanted a fee-free account when I was going abroad. But actually what happened is I completely fell in love with this very clever little bank. And as many listeners will already know from listening to the podcast, I'm not a natural planner. Ironically, I know as a financial planner, but my relationship with money was driven by my kind of natural tendency to be spontaneous with money. And not just in money, but in life. You know, I have to really focus hard on planning my finances and other areas of my life. Otherwise, I get completely carried away with the doing and not with the planning. Now, this obviously has some positive connotations and some positive behaviours. And if you resonate with this, you may be nodding your head right now. And being spontaneous has got some really fantastic benefits as it enables you to take bigger risks than perhaps somebody who has a strong dominance in planning, for example. It enables you to react to situations. Maybe a friend invites you to a last minute concert or a night out. So when I first opened a Starling Bank account, I loved how it helped me to get insight into my spending habits. With the app itself, you can see where you're spending and who you're spending with. I was able to be very, very conscious about my spending. And then I created some little goal pots and started planning my spending and actually giving every sort of pound a job and allocating money out for specific purposes, being much more proactive rather than reacting with money. It literally revolutionised my life. Now, in that same year, I read a book called Profit First. And in fact, I reread it again this summer to really embed and implement the model. Now, to me, Profit First is the business version of mental accounting that focuses your business on profit being a habit, not a situation that just occurs in your business. Now, mental accounting, we have spoken about before on the podcast, but mental accounting is kind of known as like the two-pocket theory. It's a behavioural bias that occurs when people put their money into separate pots, separating them into kind of different mentally separating them for different purposes, where maybe the source of the money is different or the intent of the account is for a different purpose. So maybe one of those accounts is for bills and another one of the accounts that you have is for treats. Now, mental accounting is a concept that was developed by an economist called Richard Thaler, and he explained that mental accounting often leads people to make irrational investment decisions and behave in financially counterproductive ways, such as carrying a large credit card balance whilst also investing. Now, one of the most common irrational decisions that I see for entrepreneurs, particularly in their early days of business, is when they take the common traditional accountant's view of managing money in business. Sales minus expenses equals profit. And this kind of makes sense, right? But no. Now, I don't know about you, but I created my business because I wanted to support my passion to help more women to become financially independent, and also for me to create financial freedom and security for my life and for my family. Now, I suspect you created your business for a similar reason. Now, you did it, essentially to put money in your back pocket to support your family, to help build a life that is in line with your values and passions. So what Profit First tells us is that there's a big difference between making money, i.e. income, and making profit. Money is the foundation of our businesses. Without money, you cannot serve your clients. You cannot realise your true potential because you get stuck in a cycle of just existing. Now, we talked about the impact of not charging enough in last week's episode, and you can't serve your clients unless you too are making profit. Not making money, not making sales, not making income is not making any profit. Profit is not an event either. So profit is a habit. And in this book, Mike explains, the author, how we get caught up in this kind of survival trap. And he suggests that part of the problem is that we look at the balance in our bank account as one pot, and then we make decisions on how to manage the business without really looking at other issues such as tax or how much salary we're drawing, never mind the actual profit. And tax is one of those areas that you either do or you don't save for tax. And particularly when you're setting up in business, it's really important to make sure that from day one of your business, any sales that you're generating in your business, you need to be shimmying off around about 20%, depending on whether you're a sole trader or a limited company, but around about 20% into a tax pot, so that you don't get that awful surprise when that letter hits your doorstep to say that your first year's worth of tax is due. And if you're a sole trader, in your first year, you've also got to pay 50% ahead of next year as well. And that often hits new business owners in the face. So don't fall into that trap. So if we take the traditional model of sales take away expenses equals profit, this is also known as what we call the primary effect. So we focus on actually what comes first, i.e. the sale, and we become blind to what comes last, i.e. profit. So it makes us blind to profit. So rather than trying to change our habits with our business finances, what Mike talks about in this book is how the answer is to use a system that works with your existing habits. Now, many entrepreneurs try and force themselves to become better at accounting and to become more disciplined. Now, I don't know about you, but I do find accounting interesting, but it's certainly not something I want to be focusing on in my business. That's something that I like to outsource. Now, the Profit First principle doesn't try and change those habits. It works with your existing habits. So by first allocating money to different accounts and then removing the temptation to borrow from yourself, your business will become stronger and you will benefit from regular profit distributions. Genius, right? So how does this work, and what does the Profit First setup actually look like in practice? So the Profit First system is set up using 4 key principles, and it's referred to as using the kind of analogy of eating healthily. So key principle number 1 is having small plates. So the idea here is to work with your kind of innate need to finish everything on your plate. Do you remember growing up when your mum, and your dad used to say to you, don't leave the table unless you've got a clean plate? And actually even now, I hate leaving anything on my plate. It just doesn't feel satisfying. It doesn't feel like I've almost finished the job of eating. So in the same way that this, we can relate this to food, the Profit First model talks about how the solution is to kind of reduce the size of the plates, therefore reducing the size of your portion. And I guess this is one of the tricks, isn't it, that they teach you about if you're wanting to lose weight, is you just change the size of your plate. So transferring that to your business, when money comes into your business, immediately send portions of it out to the following accounts: profit, tax, salary, and operating expenses. Now I'm going to come on to the practicalities of how those 4 pots work in a second, but those are the kind of portions that we need to separate money out as it, immediately, as soon as it comes into our business: profit, tax, salary, and operating expenses. Now, the second key principle is serving sequentially. So when you're eating smaller portions, start with your veggies first. Now, they fill you up with all the good stuff. And relating that to business, when you're dispersing the money that comes into your account, into your business across those 4 accounts, you're paying profit first. The third key principle is removing temptation. So you know about this one, right? Get rid of all the chocolate, all the wine, all the junk food. Get rid of any temptation that's in the kitchen that will take you off track from healthy eating. And in your business, it's about getting that profit account out of easy reach. So moving it into a different pot, moving it into a different bank, maybe automating those deposits. Don't sort of look at it and just make it hard to steal it away from yourself. And then the fourth key principle is enforcing a rhythm. So this kind of goes back to the concept of not eating when you're hungry. Or not shopping when you're hungry, mate, as well. So the idea is munch a few calories every couple of hours. And the same holds true for your business. Don't pay bills when you've got money. Pay them on a regular basis. So kind of enforce that habit, enforce that rhythm. Now, one of the most interesting early chapters of the book for me is when Mike talks about how this is based on the theory of Parkinsons Law. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Parkinsons Law, this was a theory that was developed in 1955 by a modern philosopher called C. Northcote Parkinson. And he explained that it kind of triggers 2 main behaviours. And Mike uses these behaviours in an analogy in the book with a tube of toothpaste. So bear with me. I hope you're not brushing your teeth, by the way, while you're listening to this, because you may feel triggered by this behaviour. But the first one is when you're brushing your teeth, you need to kind of intentionally make less toothpaste available to brush your teeth. And he talks about sort of the need to intentionally make less toothpaste, i.e. money, available to brush your teeth, i.e. to operate your business. So when there's less toothpaste available in that tube, you kind of automatically run your business more frugally and run it more profitably. So you think about when you have a full tube of toothpaste, right? You're not really that fussed about how hard you squeeze because there's tons in it. But when you get to that last little piddly bit in the toothbrush, in the toothpaste holder, and you fold it in half, then you fold it in half again, then you might squeeze it down with the end of your toothpaste or on your elbow, really, really trying to squeeze everything out of the end of that toothpaste to make it spread further. And that's the same sort of principle, is that when you're brushing your teeth, if you make less available in the first place, you just automatically run it more, you run that toothpaste down more frugally. So the second principle around that is when less money is available to run your business, i.e. in the toothpaste analogy, when there's less available, and in business, if you've particularly if you've moved that money out of sight, you'll always find ways to get the same results or better results with less. So in other words, by taking your profit first, you'll be forced to really think smarter. Now, if you implement profit first, you'll start to use the powerful human behaviour of out of sight, out of mind. And as you generate profit, you'll move this from your immediate accessibility set aside money for tax, and then whatever's left is what you have to manage your expenses. So the old formula becomes sales minus profit equals expenses. I'll just say that again. So that old formula becomes sales minus profit equals expenses. So your focus is not so much on the sales, but it's on making profit, and whatever is left is what you have to run your business on. Now, Mike suggests that you have several accounts for your business in order to kind of operate under the profit first model. So you may want to grab a piece of paper and a pen for this particular next sort of couple of minutes on the podcast. If you're driving and listening to this, or doing something else, maybe brushing your teeth, then just pop along into the show notes and hop onto the blog, and then you can grab the notes from there. But the first account is an income account. This is where your sales come in. That's the first account. The second account that you need is a profit account. This is where you regularly allocate a certain percentage for yourself as profit. The third account is what he calls an owner's comp. This is essentially your salary account. Obviously, if it's just you and your business, that salary account may be the same as your profit account. But if you employ a couple of staff members, then that may be your salary pot. The fourth part is tax. So that's the percentage that's owed to the tax man. And then the fifth account is OPEX, which is essentially operating expenses for your business. Now, he talks in quite some detail and gives some templates in the book itself as to how much you need to allocate to each of those percentages, depending on whether you're just starting out in business or whether you're an existing business actually wanting to transfer your business finances under the profit first model. But he also, in addition to those accounts, recommends that you have two other out of reach accounts, one which he labels up profit hold and the other is tax hold. So when I was implementing this in my business, I used the Starling business account to set up my 5 pots. So I had my main account as my income account when the money comes in. And then I set up pots 2, 3, 4 and 5 in the goal section area of Starling Bank. And then what I did is I set up profit hold and tax hold with another organisation. So those were completely out of reach, out of sight, out of mind. Now, you can read more about how this works in the book, but I think that Starling Bank business accounts, particularly for UK business owners, offers the perfect solution to creating these pots without kind of having to open up lots and lots of different bank accounts with different organisations, which, let's face it, could end up you could end up racking up a little bit of bank fees and just overcomplicating things. So why does the profit first model work? So in reality, for me, it's about the simplicity of it and the visual nature of everything. I think Mike's system really combines kind of both the human behaviours relating to finance, how we feel about money, the habits that we're generating around money, and then a real easy to implement system. Now, in terms of implementing the profit first model, how do you go about implementing it? Step 1 is to read the book, and I would definitely recommend that you buy the book rather than actually downloading it as an audio. And then step 2 would be to identify those money leaks. What are your money leaks in your business that you need to draw as much profit as you can from your business to then look at what's left to run as expenses. And this is something that will really transform your business. Cutting expenses is normally so much easier than trying to conjure up new sales, that's for sure. So perhaps challenge yourself to look at your expenses and maybe cut out like 5 to 10% of your monthly expenses in your business right now. Put a note in your diary to do this every 3 months as well, kind of like a quarterly plug your money leaks challenge. And then step 3 would be to implement the profit first model into your business. You can actually look up, there are some profit first approved accountants in the UK. I'm currently working with one of them. And we also actually have her coming into the Money Circle membership very shortly, actually, in the next couple of months, to do some training specifically on how to implement the profit first model into your business. Now, it would also be a little bit amiss of me not to mention that we are about to kick off actually with the next free Facebook 5-day challenge, which is incidentally called Plug Your Money Leaks Challenge. So if this is an area that you really want to focus on, maybe the kids are going back to school and you really want to get business or personal finances in a really good position, ready for the next quarter, for the rest of 2019. I can't believe we're like in the last quarter almost already. Then do pop into the show notes or onto the blog and grab the link. You can also find this on the website, catherinemorgan.com, where you can find a link on as soon as you land on the website for the Plug Your Money Leaks challenge. Operates through Facebook. It's very, very simple. It's really good fun. Most of the Facebook lives that we do are, we do one in the morning and one in the evening across the 5 days. You do want to be grabbing your pajamas for the evening sessions, because we like to just get in our pajamas, really tackle those taboo subjects of money in a really relaxed and fun way. So grab your glass of wine, cup of tea, grab your Jimmy Jammies, and I really look forward to seeing you in the 5-day challenge. And I hope that this podcast has been useful to get you really thinking, like your mind is probably racing right now thinking like, that just makes so much sense, rather than looking at that typical model of, sales minus expenses equals what's left to pay myself. Why are we doing that? Why are we not focusing on paying ourselves first before we then look at running expenses from our business? So I hope you found it super useful, and I look forward to speaking to you again next week. Take care. You've been listening to Catherine Morgan's In Her Financial Shoes podcast. If you enjoyed this show, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes. And don't forget, if you're feeling stuck and overwhelmed and want to learn more about being financially resilient, confident and in control, head over to www.catherinemorgan.com.